The federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, have today signed a new agreement aimed at improving the quality of education in our university system and ensuring stability. And two more members of the State House of Assembly in Rivers State have withdrawn their support in the impeachment move against Governor Siminalayi Fubara. Hello everyone, welcome to the program and thank you for joining this edition of the program. This is China Television's political program. I'm Sheung Okimaloye. Let's tell you that two more members of the State House of Assembly have withdrawn their support in the impeachment move against Governor Siminalayi Fubara, his deputy Ngozi Ordu, as they are now calling for peaceful resolution of the political crisis in the state. Honorable Barile Unwako, who represent Kana Constituency 1, and Emilia Amadi of Obiakpo Constituency 2, made their positions known barely 48 hours after two other lawmakers announced a similar decision, although the legislature has maintained that the governor and his deputy may have breached constitutional provisions. They say their change of stance followed interventions by respected leaders and stakeholders who appealed for restraint in the interest of peace and stability in Rivers State. All right, we've got more stories for you, especially the particular story that gets our interest tonight. Now, if you are being a victim of incessant ASUU strike, then this is very interesting because we've seen a government that said, look, whatever has happened in the last years with ASUU strike, the grievances of lecturers. Now, in the last 5 years, since 2019, where we saw the termination of, we saw some kind of deal. But if you look at it, 2020 to 2025 is being a tumultuous one for lecturers and students. Approximately, some students lost 2 academic sessions in those 5 years. Terrible, isn't it? But with what the Bola Tinubu government is putting in place, will it ensure and sort of give confidence not only to the university system, to the lecturers, to the non-academic staff, and the students alike. We'll be delving with that, and the man who signed the deal will be speaking with us tonight. But first, let's start you with some of your political roundup stories.
Justice Joyce Abdulmalik of the Federal High Court Abuja has fixed January the 23rd to hear an application for stay of further proceedings filed by the Kabiru Turaki-led People's Democratic Party against the suit instituted by a faction of the party in the camp of the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike. Justice Abdulmalik adjourned the matter to allow counsel for the plaintiff, Onyechi Ikpeazu, respond to the motion for stay. The Turaki-led leadership, through their lawyer, equally filed a motion and notice asking Justice Abdulmalik to recuse herself from the case. They argue that there exists a reasonable and well-founded apprehension of likelihood of bias against them in the manner the suit had been handled by the judge. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has announced the revised voters' register for the Federal Capital Territory ahead of the area council elections scheduled to take place on February the 21st, 2026. According to INEC, the revision shows that the total number of registered voters is now 1,680,315. The FCT resident electoral commissioner, Mr. Aminu Idris, disclosed the figures during a meeting with political parties in Abuja and urged political parties and their candidates to sustain the prevailing peaceful atmosphere in the FCT and intensify voter mobilization ahead of the election. Governor Inuwa Yahaya of Gombe State has flagged off the online registration platform of the All Progressives Congress APC in Gombe State for existing and prospective members. While leading the charge for the simplified e-registration process, Governor Yahaya promises to deliver 100% of the votes in the state to the APC during the 2027 general elections. The governor believes that more people are joining the party in view of the dividends of democracy enjoyed in the state and from the federal government. Former Governor of Enugu State, Barrister Sullivan Chime, has thrown his weight behind the endorsement of President Bola Tinubu for a second term in office by Southeast governors and stakeholders of the All Progressives Congress in the Southeast. Mr. Chime made this known during the flag-off of the APC e-registration exercise in Enugu West Senatorial District saying the few naysayers in the region would soon see the light and embrace reality. The Borno State chapter of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, has disowned the alleged transitional and registration committees set up by a group led by Mr. Kashim Imam Matawale, warning that the party will take legal action against anyone trying to hijack its structure. The state chairman of the ADC, Mr. Omar Bolori, stated this at a press briefing in Maiduguri, the state capital. He expressed concern over attempts by groups to infiltrate the party ahead of the 2027 general elections.
All right, and there you have it, your political roundup stories and you being served. Let's tell you that today we saw it in Abuja. The federal government and the Academic Staff Union of University ASUU both never agree. But today it does look like they agreed on one thing and they signed to it. Well, the aim of that agreement is to improve the quality of university education system in Nigeria and that it can ensure stability of some sort. The new agreement replaces the 2009 pact that triggered several industrial actions over unresolved issues. The signing and unveiling of the agreement took place earlier at the Tertiary Education Trust Fund conference room in Maitama, Abuja. The ceremony was attended by several dignitaries, including the Minister of Education, Dr. Maruf Tunjalausa, and the Minister of State for Education, Professor Suwaiba Ahmed. ASUU President, Professor Chris Puwuna, says that despite the union's history with the federal government, it remains optimistic that things will be different this time around. Take a listen to Professor Puwuna.
As we are here with joy for a successful collective bargaining between ASUU and the federal government, we need to note that there are still pending issues which are more internal, that is dragging the progress and survival of our university system. Government persistent encroachment into the autonomy of the universities have not stopped. The Governing Council is legally the highest decision-making body of the Nigerian universities, and they are responsible for policy direction, financial oversight, and appointment of principal officers. In practice, however, councils are often subordinated to the whims of government authorities. A recurring problem is the arbitrary dissolution or suspension of governing councils by the federal and state governments, and the reckless intervention in the appointment of vice-chancellors.
That is the ASUU president, Dr. Chris Puwuna. Now, a lot of you who perhaps graduated and those of you who are still trapped in the Nigerian universities and you spend more time than expected, let me give you an understanding of what has happened in the last 5 years. So those of you who may not remember, summarily, it appears that in the last 5 years, some students may have lost 2 academic sessions by staying at home due to COVID-19 or ASUU strike. ASUU strike largely being the most problem. In 2 years, students stayed at home for about 8 months. In a year, I think about 7 months, another year, 8 months. So you can see from 2020, if you flip the page to 2021, there's always, every year has its problems. 2022, we have the longest shutdown, 8-month strike, crippling academic calendar nationwide. Court order issued, lecturers return reluctantly. 2023, I think we saw no pay, no work, academic calendars will now compress, salary disputes linger, IPs, a lot of questions as to what exactly is the problem. Even speaking with you, I also suffered. If you remember the Union Learning 44, I was in school when that happened, so I know very fine and lovely lecturers who, for the sake of, for the reason of ASUU strike, they were out of jobs. Some of them died even before they could be returned. You remember Dr. Olorun Toba-Oju and the Rex, Dr. Bode Omojola. Those were beautiful lecturers who were out of jobs because they were protesting and fighting the federal government. Let's get to the conversation. How can this be sustained? Dr. Tunjalausa, who is the Minister of Education, is live for us here on the program. Thanks so much, Honorable Minister, and Happy New Year. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to you.
Congratulations. I heard from third parties about what you are doing in the ministry. You are one of a few. We thought that those guys who come from America always come with beautiful ideas, lovely ideas, but they don't know how to implement. But this is a statement that we're in the right direction if everything works right. The happy university lecturers in the room today, but then there's a big question, implementation. But what brought about this idea? Is it a consolidated, is it a solid idea and agreement that was signed today?
You've asked a lot of questions, and I'll just address all those questions very carefully. You've just said that in the last 5 years alone, some students lost to almost 2 academic sessions. They were home for sometimes upward of 8 months. But I'll tell you, in the last, since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was sworn in, May 28, 2023, 2 academic sessions, no strike. It didn't happen by coincidence. These were deliberate efforts that were put in place to keep our children in school. We have a president, the president of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that has fervent and benevolent belief in education as a bedrock of our society and any society. What happened today, the historic event that happened today, that is great for our country, all the kudos would go to the president. We have, for the first time in the history of our country, a sitting president took charge directly, being told what was going on at every point of the negotiation with ASUU. When I started dealing with ASUU, I said, ASUU, I was warned when I got in as a minister that those ASUU people, they're very toxic, they're bad people, they're demons. I said, no, I'm never going to be prejudiced. I went in with open mind. I was open-minded with dealing with them. As I started dealing with them, the first president I dealt with was Professor Emmanuel Sedeke, later Professor Chris Piwuna. And as I was talking to them in meetings, I realized that these are fine, brilliant, patriotic people. What they wanted was fair compensation, better welfare, good education system for our children. And that's what this president wanted, but this president wants as well. So our aims, our goals are perfectly aligned. So now how do we get there? I told them we'll negotiate with you with full mutual respect, transparency, honesty, and I warned them that we have the best opportunity here, the person of this president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because this president believes so much in human capital development. When you talk about human capital, you're talking about education, health, and social protection. And for the first time in the history of our country, you have a president that has invested so much heavily in these areas. And I said, please, let's get the maximum opportunity. This president will give us everything we want. And today, I'm happy and I'm vindicated about my promise because I know President Bola Ahmed Tinubu loves this country so much, and that's why you've seen transformation in every sector. And what the president is doing is putting our country on path of sustainability with every transformative reform that's happening. Are we there yet? But today, compared to 30 months ago, Nigeria is better off with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I haven't answered your question. Okay. Let me answer. You're talking about sustainability, about if this agreement will be implemented. An agreement is useful. It's not the beauty of any agreement is not at the point of signing the agreement. Mm-hmm. It's at the implementing phases of those agreements. Before today, we've already started implementation. The chairman of National Salary, Income and Wages Commission, the person of Mr. Inter, worked nights, several hours between December 29 and 30 to ensure that the circular to back up the various welfare components of the agreement was released. That circular has been released, and when we're negotiating the agreement, the president said, I will not give you the go-ahead to go and sign an agreement that I know I won't implement. As we went back and forth, the president, do I have the funding to do this? When the president was convinced that he had the funding, he signed off. Today, we have the funding to support the 40% salary increase that we've given our lecturers in all our tertiary institutions. We started with ASUU today. The enhanced and academic allowances, 9 of them in Hall, have been very structured, now well structured. The lecturers know, our academic staff know who is paying. They want the universities will pay. They want the federal government will pay via their personnel costs. And now, the president even went further and created a new category of allowance for our academic staff. It's called professorial cadre allowance, an enhanced additional allowance package.
This was never. This
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came up with this idea.
Is it a research base or just
this allowance is for professor? Okay. For professors alone.
As long as you're
full-time professor, professorial chair, as long as you're a professor or you're a reader, you'll get that additional pot of money.
Per annum or per session?
It's been bucketed per
into
annum,
the salary,
but you get it every month. And I can tell you, a professor will get almost over 140,000 naira top up every month. A reader will get about 70,000 top up additional every month. Never been created, never been done before. The president came up with this himself. Said, I'm meeting my commitment. And when you have a president that, when he makes promises, he doesn't make empty promises. He makes those promises with the full intent, with the full conviction of meeting those promises. And that is what we've seen in the last 30 months plus.
Let me come in quickly. 16 years ago, that's when the last deal that the government had with the ASUU, which was during the Yaradua. And that created a lot of problem. The first issue, and I mean, some of us who have been, we've seen it and were around, scrutinized it a bit then, but we didn't know down the line there were going to be problems. Now, looking at the pact that you signed today, one thing that came out to me, and some of the lecturers might be asking the question, the 1% GDP funding source, how do you hope to achieve that?
You know, that's with about research. You know, some part of the agreement, you know, several components of these agreements emanated since 2009. And ASUU was very strident that what they agreed on with the federal government in 2009, they want to keep, they would like to keep every single component of that. They don't want any deletion. Now, we now said, because we're negotiating in good faith, transparently, and because we wanted the best. We wanted enhanced package. The president wanted enhanced package, a welfare package for them. So we agreed with the National Research Council and things like that. But when I tell you, you have a president that is fixing throughput, front and center, end to end, transforming this country. Even before we go to ASUU agreement, president has directed myself and Mrs. Adiza Bala Usman to find a way to develop a national research development fund to fund research. And president had looked for areas of mobilizing significant amount of money, not that would be out of the appropriation, to fund research. We're already working on that. So now, 1% of GDP, good chunk of money to fund research. At the end of the day, we will have a robustly funded research development fund in this country. Never happened before.
But so now,
and the president was probably proactive. The president never saw the ASUU agreement. He just called us and said, "Listen, I don't like the way research has been in this country. There is no way, the government doesn't have a proper way of funding research. You two go and work. Come to me on how we can fund research properly."
And you are from, in fact, you practice in a sector of medicine that is backed heavily by research in the U.S.
Yes.
Without research, your sector can never thrive.
Yes.
And when we wonder how universities and those who are academically inclined wonder how the society here in Nigeria never looks to the university or never look to the academia for solutions. And COVID-19 came. The rest of the world went back to, they went to MIT, they went to Harvard, they went to Cambridge and seeking solution on solving the medical emergency across the globe. And they were getting solutions. But Nigeria, we had nothing to run back to. My own issue is not the funding. It's about the synergy, how the gown meets the town, and how that handshake will happen. Yes, we have the funding. Yes, we have the brainy lecturers who can do the work. But then how do we implement sustainable developmental issues that will help our society?
Thank you so much. We have a government that is, we're very futuristic. We're not waiting for problems to happen. Exactly what you just said today, it's out of coincidence. I just inaugurated the drafting committee of our research and innovation, research innovation commercialization committee that we've reactivated about 9 months ago. We have a robust research, innovation and commercialization committee, which is to bring research to market. Right now, we have a lot of researches going on, a lot of things, they end up in shelves, they end up in journals. We're not using those research products to form, to get them to develop impact. Startup, business that can scale up. But we're far ahead as well. We've already inaugurated our own research, innovation, and commercialization committee that will do just exactly what you just said. How do we convert this research endeavors, this knowledge into impact? Into impact solution that impacts people's life, product that you can develop businesses, opportunities from. So that's already done. The drafting committee today, even about the intellectual property, that committee is already working with the Attorney General Office on how to create a more robust policies and process to protect people's intellectual property. Government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is working. President believes in one thing: this country will be put on path of sustainability forever. So we already have that. The drafting committee was inaugurated by me just a few hours ago. They have 3 months to come up with the result. We've also created very robust funding behind that Research, Innovation, and Commercialization Committee, which is currently being housed in TED Fund. But the plan into the future is once we get to the point that we have the National Research Development Fund, the agency being developed, we still have to go through the usual process of getting the FEC, getting the Attorney General to draft the bill, and we take the bill to the National Assembly. Once that one president assents to the bill and becomes a law, then we will now move that RICC, Research, Innovation, Commercialization Committee, as part of the National Research Development Fund. We're very deliberate in the way we're moving our education sector forward.
For our viewers who do not know what you signed, I've tried to distill that agreement into some of this information that our viewers can see right on the screen. I've broken down some of the agreement from the funding to the management in the university, administration, lecturers' welfare, and all of that. I don't know if that. No, this is not it. The agreement. No, this is what sounded the non-academic staff union were talking about. But the non-academic are also asking, what about them?
No, we're already negotiating with them. You see, let me tell you something. We have a changed country. Please, I want people to really give President Bola Ahmed Tinubu credit. Let's take politics aside. This man is managing this country the way any egalitarian society should be run. Before we came in, let me tell you, in our ministry alone, we had 3 different committees that was negotiating. One committee was negotiating with the universities, and one committee was with ASUU. One committee was negotiating with ASUU, the polytechnic academic staff. Another committee was negotiating for the colleges of education academic staff. And all that 3 different committees negotiating with the non-academic staff. So you literally had 6 committees that were not talking to one another. Create a lot of discord, lack of trust. But we said, no, we're talking about tertiary institution. Why do we need 6 different committees? We collapse it into one. The Alhaji Yahya Ahmed federal government, Alhaji Yahya Ahmed committee for tertiary institution. That same committee It's negotiated. As negotiated, we finalized. We've signed the agreement with ASUU. Today, the committee is already working. They've been working with ASUU, the Polytechnic Academic Union, and the COESU, the Colleges of Education Academic Union. The same committee is working with SANU, NASU, and SANU, NASU. They are all talking.
So everyone is going to get a fair deal.
They will get a fair deal.
Is it a period, an era that strike is gone forever?
Strike,
we are not going to receive strike again.
Will be, you see, when you say, I sit here, the political will at the president level. President said, our children must be in school. Or they must stay in school when they should be in school. So it's giving us all the political cover. But we'll do it in a way that we don't wreck the financial stability of a country, and in a mutually respectful way that we know both parties will not get everything they want. But I can assure you today, we've done ASUU Polytechnic, we've done academic staff will be finalized, the non-academic staff will be finalized as well. Everybody will get a reasonably good deal. But we can't fix 20 years, 30 years of decade, 20 years problem in 2.5 years. But we've started well, and what we've also done, we've deliberately put in the agreement that this agreement will be opened up for renegotiation every 3 years.
Yeah.
So that's the sustainability, and we've also put that either party could open it up. I'll use reference for the ASUU. 6 months before the end of the agreement, ASUU could trigger open discussion. Even the government can trigger discussion and say, we believe we want to do more for you.
Part of what you have, there are lecturers who will accuse federal government of interference and indiscriminate appointment of administration of some of these universities. They talk about unpicking pro-chancellors and indiscriminate. These are some of the things. And part of the agreement that you sign is no victimization of lecturers. And this all goes on into part of the agitation of the lecturers. Are you making the assurance and telling Nigerians tonight that all of those fears are going to be allayed?
I can tell you unequivocally, there will not be any victimization of anybody. And if you look at some of the things the ASUU President, Professor Piwona, talked about interference in appointment of vice chancellors, not federal vice chancellors. He mentioned state. We do not interfere with appointment of vice chancellors. The councils of the universities are independent, and they're running their universities very well, robustly, though there might be issues here and there with the pro-chancellors and the vice-chancellors. But in the last several months, we've resolved all those. There's so much peace and harmony in our tertiary institutions now.
Part of
there's stability. And you can go to the campus, go to various campuses now, and they're happy. This president has changed the state, the chaotic situation that existed before. We now have peace, tranquility, and stability in our tertiary institutions.
My final questions for you, part of what you agreed today, 40% salary increase in terms of welfare, pension upgrade for professors to earn retirement pension equal to their last annual salary at the age of 70, dedicated federal allocations for research, libraries, laboratories, equipment, staff development. You talk about national research breakthrough to receive at least 1% of Nigeria's GDP every year to fund university research and innovation, academic freedom and governance, stronger university autonomy, protection of staff and implementation timeline. You said that it's going to start it has started actually from January 1, 2026, and it's going to be reviewed every 3 years. The assurance and the final word I would like to get from you is that in all of this, what is the ultimate agenda of this government? Do you have what you plan to make to grow Nigeria education into? What is your ultimate agenda in this cycle?
The ultimate agenda is to move our country to a knowledge-based economy, not a product-based economy, because we have a huge young population that are eager to learn, that are very creative. It's in their DNA. So what we need to do now is to give them the best education, for them to unleash their innate capabilities to help build, expand, transform the economy base of our country. And that's this agenda. That's what this agenda is.
And I hope that.
And I'll tell you. And the way to do that is to make sure they're kept in school, and more so, you need their lecturer to be incentivized, the teachers to be incentivized to teach them well, to give them well, and that's what we're doing. We're eating the cake and having it at the same time. But if you do the right thing, that's what happens to you. We've enhanced the package, the welfare package of academic lecture for academicians, for them to deliver. We're giving them and we're creating the environment that they need to thrive, research, support them.
And the classrooms also.
And then
the dilapidated classrooms, no chairs, no table, no lockers.
No, that's not happening again. Last year, the entire direct intervention of TED Fund, the tertiary institutions were mandated to use those funds with their direct intervention to do 5 things: rehabilitate, rehab all their classrooms, engineering workshops, technology workshops, faculty offices, and student hostels. So, in the next several months, you go to tertiary institutions, they're going to wear new faces.
Nigerians need to start taking
them,
taking pictures and ensuring that this is happening.
And we also spent almost 160 billion to improve, modernize 18 medical schools within the 6 geopolitical zones. And what we're doing in this 2026 spending cycle, we're focusing now on engineering and technology school. We rehabilitate every single federal university technology, their workshops, the fund, over 100 billion will be spent to rehabilitate those engineering and technology workshops, build new ones where applicable, and purchase modern day equipment. We're delivering. We want to go back to what existed 50, 60 years ago for our institution to deliver the highest quality of education to our citizens. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, Nigerians should keep tabs. Some of the things that the minister has said tonight, let's keep watching and let's keep hoping. Let's be on the positive side, because when there's a trust deficit, when we've seen past years dilapidation and decadence in our education system, and when new things are happening, we will watch carefully. But thank you so much, Dr. Tunji Alausa. Congratulations on the milestone today. But you know what some of your guys say in the ministry, that you are highly impatient. You want everything to be done now. In the ministry, that you are highly impatient. You want everything to be done now. all of your American ideas, you want it to be done now. Well, I wish you the very best. Not the easiest thing to do, but keep at it. Thank you so much, Dr. Tunji Alausa, Minister of Education.
Thank you, Shane, for having me. Thank you.
We'll take a break, everyone. But when we come back, all of you know what happened to Chimamanda Adichie's son. I promised you a few days ago, I'm going to bring a man who is equal in his medical education, the highest level of medical education, as legal education, experience in law, and PhD in medicine, 3 PhDs. And he will be talking to us tonight. All you need to do as a patient, medical negligence and patient safety. After this break, everyone. Join us again. Once again confronting painful questions about medical negligence and the state of his healthcare system following the death of a young son of award-winning author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, a case that has ignited a national debate over hospital standards, emergency response, and accountability in public and private health facilities, from overcrowded wards and under-resourced emergency units to the absence of enforceable patient safety protocols. Critics now say the tragedy reflects deeper structural failures in a system many Nigerians increasingly fear cannot guarantee basic care when it matters most. The family seeks answers, and authorities are facing growing pressure to investigate. Lawyers are now saying, well, maybe we need a structural re-engineering of our laws. The case has become a defining moment in the wider conversation about trust, professionalism, and reform in Nigeria's health care. My guest is a rare Nigerian. Hardly would you find a medical doctor at the very top of their career and at the same time being a lawyer attaining the very top of the legal academic height. My guest is a doctor of law and a doctor of medicine. an associate professor of orthopedic surgery and a senior lecturer in law, orthopedic surgeon, lawyer, health policy expert. He has 3 PhDs, PhD in surgical pathology, PhD in clinical oncology, and PhD in law. He's a director and chief consultant surgeon as a consultant surgeon at the State House Medical Center. Dr. DK Obalum is live for us here. Thank you so much, Dr. Obalum, for joining us.
Thank
tonight.
you, Sheil.
Let me also tell our lecturers that you taught me health law. So, so people will know your secrets that I've in passing mentioned it on this program. But I wouldn't see anything good for our viewers, and I wouldn't like. And it took a lot of convincing. You're a very shy person. You don't want to talk. You don't want to come to public. But I begged you that you should come and enlighten us. And you've sat in disciplinary cases, and you know, you've taught, you've been in court over some of this matter. What we saw in the case of Chimamanda Adichie's son, because that is a case study that is bringing this conversation. It looks to me, if I remember some of the things that you taught us, like a criminal medical negligence case. And it brings to mind the Bolambolito case, isn't it?
Yes. Thank you, Sheil, for that incisive question. The basic fact is that looking at the facts of the case that we've read from the media, it looks like criminal medical negligence. Remember that in law, facts can be true, facts can be false. If the facts, as we gather them right now, are true, then pointing towards criminal medical negligence. Criminal because the young child, Nkano Nnamdi Esege, died. Negligence because the facts suggest that the doctors in question failed to do that is expected them based on their qualification and their specialization. That is why it is negligence, because they failed in their duty of care. However, one must state that whether you're talking about medical errors, you're talking about medical negligence, medical malpractice, criminal errors, criminal negligence, criminal malpractice, there are some available defenses for the medical practitioner. If you remember your health law very well, you know that the legal framework as a guide for medical practitioners practicing medicine in Nigeria still remains the Medical and Dental Practitioners Act. Mm-hmm. And flowing from that act, the Section 1 sub C of that act empowers the Medical and Dental Council to make a subsidiary legislation, which is the Code of Medical Ethics in Nigeria for medical practitioners. Mm-hmm. And Section 28, 29, and 30 of that code defines medical negligence, proceeds to say what are medical negligence and prescribe the punishment, especially in Section 30, code. Mm-hmm. The criminal errors, criminal negligence, and criminal practice are captured in the criminal code, Sections 303, 305, and Section 343, that prescribe the elements of that crime and prescribe consequential punishments for that crime. What happened in this child's case is that first, the child was correctly referred from Atlantis Hospital to Eurocare Hospital. That was the correct thing to do because
for a brain
MRI for a lumbar puncture, and from the facts that emanating, the child was also to have a cardiac catheterization
due to the procedures that led. That was prescribed.
Yes. The child was transported by ambulance under oxygen to Eurocare from Atlantis. He got to Atlantis, and because he's a child, he may not become inside the tunnel for MRI. They had to sedate the child.
With propofol.
With propofol.
Propofol, very popular Michael Jackson case.
Yes. Propofol is I'm a surgeon, so propofol is what you use in the theater regularly. Propofol is a fast-acting anesthetic agent. which can also be used for sedation. However, propofol has a dual mechanism of action. It enhances the GABA blocking effect on nerves in the brain, and at the same time inhibits the excitatory nerves in the brain. So somebody will say, in a child, why propofol?
21-month-old child.
21-month-old toddler, why propofol?
So propofol is a wrong line of medication for that age?
Not necessarily so, but the use of propofol in children should be done with exceeding care. That's one. Secondly, while using propofol, especially in a sick child, there should be oxygen support. That child should have oxygen. Which
we don't know whether or not they administer.
The fact is that the child was on oxygen from the referral hospital Atlantis to Eurocare. That was confirmed. The fact in the media is that when he got to Eurocare, after giving the propofol, they took him off oxygen. And the anesthetist was carrying him on his shoulder or in front of his chest, whichever. If those facts are true, that could suggest medical negligence. But having said that, I do not know the status of the equipment of the Eurocare hospital, because not having the appropriate equipment to do what you have to do can be actually a defense in law.
Eurocare is one of the most equipped private hospitals in Nigeria, and I know a lot of people who have talked about it. But a brain MRI will suggest that a patient will have to be subdued in some way. You have to lay down and you have to go through the tunnel. Am I right?
You're correct.
So in that sense, are you able to administer, oxygenate that child in that process?
An interesting question. But remember that oxygen usually is administered to a patient through a face mask,
okay,
through a tube,
okay,
connected to an oxygen cylinder.
So it's possible that you do that?
It is technically possible. Whether it is practically possible in that center is what I cannot attest to. But technically, yes, you can do so. Particularly a child that came to your hospital on oxygen. It is imperative to maintain such a child on oxygen. Let's look at a broader perspective. The child came for brain MRI, a lumbar puncture.
A lumbar puncture, please explain. What does that mean to our viewers so that they can understand?
Okay.
Lumbar puncture, what does it mean?
A lumbar puncture is a procedure through which you obtain the cerebrospinal fluid from the lower end of the spinal cord to culture it or to analyze it and see whether there's inflammation or infection.
So it's like a test?
Yes, it's a test. You put a needle into the spinal cord at the lower end of the spinal cord to obtain the cerebrospinal fluid, the fluid that bathes the spinal cord and the brain, to see whether there's an infection affecting the cord and the brain, or whether there's inflammation or any other problem.
Which is, in any case, what the doctors are trying to find out, because what looks like something I graduated from, like a flu for the child, they now discover that this is graduating rapidly. And in that sense, they gave the child a propofol to sedate the child. Maybe the propofol and that procedure and that set of medication is right or wrong is a basic question, because the child doesn't look like being able to come back naturally from the propofol sedation, isn't it?
Yes. Propofol is a fast-acting, short-duration sedative or anesthetic agent. But the key factor here is that the propofol may have inhibited the respiration of this child both centrally and peripherally, and therefore that child needed to have been on oxygen. On oxygen. Remember, why are they looking for brain MRI? The infection affecting the upper airway, or whatever is happening in the upper airway, because of the close connection of the upper airways to the brain, to the base of the brain, it's easy for infection to escape from the nostrils or the upper respiratory system into the brain. And that was why the Johns Hopkins Hospital requested for the brain MRI, and the lumbar puncture to see whether there's any infection affecting the brain, the spinal cord, or their surrounding membranes. So because of that, one should expect that there will be a challenge to the respiratory system.
Let's break it down for our viewers to understand. And I thank you so much for the technical analysis of what the legal framework and the medical environment that may have surrounded Chimamanda Adichie's son's case. It then means that Chimamanda Adichie, sadly, when she walked into that hospital with our daughter, our son, the trust is in the hands of that hospital and the doctors. And that is where people are now asking the question, the legal jurisprudence around healthcare in Nigeria, between the doctor, the hospital, and the patient. And you look at other jurisdictions like the US, the UK, South Africa, and you discover that the doctors seem to be isolated. The hospital, where is the hospital in the scheme of things? The big question surrounding our health law and the bodies of law. Where are the gaps? And what are the problems?
Thank you. The absolute thing here is that if something actually went wrong, based on standard protocols, the doctors that attended to the patient are liable. The hospital itself are vicariously liable. I heard in the media that the medical director told Chimamanda that he got too much propofol. That was the medical director. The medical director is not the same person as the anesthetist that gave that. The anesthetist that gave that will need to say exactly how much he gave to the child. Where are the gaps? The gaps are mainly in the system. Nigerian doctors are among the best trained doctors in the world. I've had exposure to almost 3 continents of the world, and I know that Nigerian doctors are very, very well trained doctors. But, a big but, many private universities are beginning to water down the quality of training of our young medical doctors. And that is where I expect my friend, Professor Fatima Keri, who is the Registrar and CEO of the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, to start stepping up and to block some of the weaknesses that we are observing in the private universities, where in some of them it's a cash and carry thing. So the system, 1, that's a gap. 2, our legal framework needs to be more robust. 3, the enforcement mechanism needs to be tighter. Apart from the Medical and Dental Council, I think we need to bring up the Dr. Samuel Manoa days, where we had inspectors of hospitals across the country that can go and inspect what equipment you have and what are your procedures. 4, we need judicial activism. The judges in our courts need to start looking at these cases and making pronouncements and judgments that will make everybody sit up. For example, I know 2 or 3 years ago, a doctor was sent to jail for 6 months for amputating the wrong limb in Lagos. I know the doctor, I know the hospital, and I know about the case.
You heard about the case in Kano too?
Yes.
Where when a scissors was forgotten in the belly and the patient died.
Clear medical negligence, criminal medical negligence. So our judges need to be what we call judicial activism, to be proactive to making these decisions quickly. 5thly, the government needs to come in. I'm happy the Lagos State government is already investigating the death of...
But I argued whether they have jurisdiction. In the procedure of discipline and on this procedure, you know that the Medical and Dental Council Act says how the petition, especially when it's a criminal medical negligence, how a patient can go and where he or she can go. Does the Lagos State government have a say in this matter in the first case?
A direct answer, all private hospitals are registered and licensed by the state government of Nigeria. All private hospitals. But Section 15 and Section 16 of the Medical and Dental Practitioners Act prescribes especially the roles of Medical and Dental Practitioner Disciplinary Tribunal and the role of the Medical and Dental Practitioner Investigation Panel. clearly. And therefore, there are 3 levels of relief that Chimamanda and her family can actually seek. One is the disciplinary process through the Medical and Dental Council, where the doctor can be reprimanded, suspended for 6 months, or maybe deregistered. 2, they can choose to go to court.
So those are okay. So that's in the process of disciplinary process.
Yes.
But the criminal part of it.
I'll come to that.
All right.
Secondly, they can go to court and seek civil remedies. Civil remedies, like we know the popular Bolam and Bolito cases.
Bolito cases, yeah.
Civil remedies that they can get compensation from court. That is civil process. And the third relief is that they can write a petition to the law enforcement agents who can investigate, and if it is confirmed that there's criminal negligence, they will prosecute the person, which can land in imprisonment. But let me say something, a new development that ACJA has brought now. Mm-hmm. Ordinarily, when you go for criminal prosecution, the party that suffered injury will not get any relief. But ACJA has said now that through criminal prosecutions, that you can actually also give award reliefs or compensation to the injured party. But if you remember Bolam test, mm-hmm. Bolam test is like a peer review legal mechanism mm-hmm. that was decided in 1954 based on facts of a 1957, based on facts of a 1954 malpractice. Mm-hmm. And then the Polito case that was done in 1997, which was refining the Bolam principles, yeah. Trying to give court the audacity to challenge the peer review mechanism, making sure that it is reasonable, it is logical, and it is admissible in court, in as much as doctors can review their peers and submit their opinions as expert opinions. Mm-hmm. Looking at that, one will expect the injured party to seek all the 3 remedies mm-hmm. because nothing stops you from seeking 3 of them simultaneously. But it is prudent to explore the criminal aspect first so that findings of a criminal court, where the standard of proof is much higher than in civil matters, may quash whatever you have done in civil matter on the disciplinary.
When that is upheld, you can use the elements of the judgment to pursue the civil matter.
Absolutely. Because if you go the other way around, the Den Loye versus Medical and Dental Practitioner Tribunal case may absolve the medical practitioner at a higher level. Yes.
It's interesting. And I must thank you for this, but what final word would you give to the patient? And because there are those who will say it's the decadence and the lack of trust in our public health institution that is making people run to the private sector. In the choice of where to go, what do you say to the patient?
My first choice, which remains where I take my children, is the public hospital.
That people don't trust.
There may be delay, there may be crowd, but the protocols are easier to adhere to in a public hospital where you have a hierarchy of doctors where so many eyes are watching, than in a private hospital, which may be cozy and air-conditioned, which may give you VIP treatment, but there may be challenges in establishing and delineating clear protocols to maintain a good standard of practice. My first choice is a public hospital.
Of standard?
Of good standard.
But there are not many.
There may not be many, but I think the government is working hard to reform the system and make the public hospitals more acceptable.
It's not every day that you find a vampire of academics like yourself on television, Dr. D.K. Obalom. I call you a vampire of academics because you've tried to snatch expertise and distinction in everything that you touch in medicine and in law. And now I understand that you are grabbing another PhD, making the 4th, isn't it?
Oh, well, in life, the biggest room in life is actually the life for improvement, getting better. So I'm seeking to get a PhD in management to be an icing on the cake.
Making 4.
Yes, sir.
Professor D.K. Obalom, taught me health law, my law lecturer. Thank you so much indeed for creating time and for accepting to come and explain these issues, both on the medical side, which you have expertise in, and the legal side, which you have highest eye academically in. Thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
Thank you so much indeed. Man, I get to question my own teacher tonight. That is the power of being a television presenter. That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Wakimale. God bless Nigeria.